Monster Hunter. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well. In this video we are going to be reviewing Monster Hunter, which is a pretty poor video game movie adaptation that I was expecting and hoping so much more from. And also I was hoping and expecting it to get a lot better throughout watching this movie, but unfortunately it just didn't do that. It's based on the Capcom video game series, except this movie adaptation just feels very, very empty, very, very disjointed, and also has an over-reliance on CGI, which is pretty disappointing, and I'm going to be breaking it all down for you in this movie review. So the film starts off by showing how a group of army soldiers are being transported into another world where they have to go into combat with these massive monster characters. The film then focuses on the leader of these army soldiers working together with a local hunter in this new world who doesn't speak English to try to send her back to her world. Now, from a positive point of view, if you're just after a mindless action movie, then this is definitely the one for you. And if you're also interested in seeing how they adapted the Capcom video game series, then I think you'll be in for a surprise as well. However, in all seriousness, I do think that the interactions between the army leader character and the local hunter character are really, really interesting, especially when they aren't able to communicate in the same language. Just seeing how they're going to work together, the banter that the two of these characters share and how they're working together, especially given the fact that they are literally from different worlds, is pretty interesting. However, from a negative point of view, the main thing I want from a movie, and I don't think it's asking that much, is just having a really interesting and a very clever plot, which unfortunately I don't think this movie has. I definitely think it's action movie first, plot second. Also, you can definitely tell that they are desperately trying to set up a sequel and trying to build a bit of a franchise. On that point as well, I don't think they did that great of a job in terms of all of the world building, as there are loads of empty areas where it just feels like such a waste, especially when the Monster Hunter video game series is so rich in all of its space, and also the monsters themselves don't actually look that threatening, as like I said before, there's just an over-reliance on CGI which is pretty off-putting. And also you can really tell where the product placements are happening in this movie, as it really does focus on Pepsi, and it also really does focus on Hershey's chocolates as well, which is pretty funny. It's not as bad as when the Power Rangers reboot movie really did focus on Krispy Kremes, but you know, from a storyline point of view, I think Monster Hunter isn't that great. From a cast and characters point of view, Monster Hunter is pretty decent. I mean, it's got Mila Jovovich definitely leading this movie, and she is an absolute boss. She can definitely handle herself in action movie, and she's definitely an action movie star, and she just handles all of those scenes with ease and with perfection. So she is a fantastic lead in this movie, and I love her scenes with the Hunter character, really when they're stripped back and they're really focusing on just trying to build a relationship. I think those scenes are pretty interesting and really entertaining as well. And speaking of the Hunter, next up we have Tony Jaa, who was the stunt double for the Liu Kang character in Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and he is pretty funny in this movie. His scenes with the Hershey's chocolates are actually pretty hilarious, and his action sequences are pretty great as well. I don't think he can match Mila Jovovich's level from an action point of view, but you know, he is a pretty great co-lead in this movie. Next up we have Ron Perlman, who is playing the Admiral character, who's actually a character from the Monster Hunter video game series, but he just unfortunately doesn't have that much presence in this movie. But you know, it's great to see him more from a continuity point of view. The other characters I would just say are pretty much fodder for all of the monsters, but you know, that being said, from a cast and characters point of view, the main actors in this movie actually do a pretty decent job. So from a visuals point of view, like I said before, there's just a real over-reliance on CGI, especially on the monsters themselves. I mean, from afar, they look pretty cool. When you get closer up to them, they just don't look that threatening, and you really should be incredibly terrifying, especially as they are such giant creatures. But it just doesn't work because there's just an over-reliance on CGI. And also the locations themselves, they really could have made them super inspiring, but unfortunately they're just pretty empty, and as such they lack inspiration. But you know, that being said, the weapons themselves that the Mila Jovovich Natalie character and the Hunter use, they do look really, really cool, especially the grappling hook that the Natalie character can use to get really close up to all of the monsters. So from a visuals point of view, I think this is pretty mixed in Monster Hunter. So in terms of comparisons, I feel like Monster Hunter is nowhere near as good as the recently released Love and Monsters. That was 10 million times better than Monster Hunter. Also, I think you can definitely compare this movie to the Resident Evil series, both in terms of Mila Jovovich is leading both of them, and it also has the same director, which incidentally is Mila's husband. And I feel like the Resident Evil series is so much more fun and entertaining and exciting than Monster Hunter. I think you can also compare this movie to the recently released Chaos Walking, Alien, and the Godzilla series, which all are a lot better than Monster Hunter. So overall, Monster Hunter really should have been so much better than it was. I mean, if you're after just a mindless action movie, then you are going to enjoy it. But for me, I just wanted so much more from the plot and the script. Whilst it did have a decent performance by Mila Jovovich, I just feel like the surrounding aspects of this movie really should have been so much better. And so for all of those reasons, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. I'd love to hear what you think, so please let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.